In a remote village nestled between lush green hills and winding rivers lived a quiet young man named Nilan. He was the kind of soul who moved through life gently, always respectful, always trying to do the right thing, but always in the shadow of comparison. From the earliest days of his childhood, Nilan had been told stories of others, of neighbors who grew faster, of cousins who ran faster, of classmates who spoke louder. Without ever realizing it, his identity had been shaped not by who he was, but by who he wasn't. Nilan worked as a weaver in his uncle's shop. He would spend his days creating fabrics with quiet precision. His patterns were delicate, thoughtful, and full of a kind of hidden elegance. But each time a customer admired another weaver's bold, colorful cloth or praised someone else's speed, a little part of Nilan shrank inside. He often looked at his hands, wondering why they didn't move as fast as Karim's. He listened to Mira speak with such confidence to buyers and wondered why his voice always trembled. Even when he produced something truly beautiful, his eyes always sought the flaws not in the fabric, but in himself. It wasn't that Nilan lacked talent or kindness or patience. It was that he lacked belief. Every time he took a step forward, he measured it against a giant. Every effort he made seemed small when placed beside someone else's achievements. He would walk through the village square and feel invisible. Even when someone smiled at him or thanked him for his work, his mind whispered, "It's not enough." One summer evening, after a particularly quiet day at the shop, Nilan sat by the edge of the river. The water moved gently, just like always, but something inside him churned. He picked up a flat stone and skipped it across the surface. One skip, 2, 3, it sank. He sighed. An old man with a beard like silver fog and a walking stick made of twisted wood approached and sat nearby. Nilan had seen him before but never spoken to him. The old man didn't speak at first, just watched the river as though it was speaking to him. Finally, without turning, he said, "You skip stones like a man who doesn't want them to reach the other side." Nilan blinked. "I guess I never thought they would." "Why not?" the man asked. "Because others can skip theirs 7 times. Mine barely makes it 3. The old man chuckled softly, as though the river had told him a joke. "Do you think the stone cares how many times it skips?" Nilan turned toward him. "I don't know. Maybe not. But people do." "Ah, yes. People care. And that is your burden." Nilan frowned. "What do you mean?" The old man turned his eyes on him, now sharp, warm, and full of stories. "When you look at yourself, whose eyes do you use? Your own or theirs?" Nilan didn't answer. The man continued. "Let me tell you a story. There was once a fox who watched the eagle fly. The eagle soared over mountains, high and proud, its wings like sails catching the sky. The fox, who was fast and clever on the ground, became ashamed. He tried to jump from rocks. He climbed trees. He broke his tail trying to take flight. One day, broken and bruised, he lay beside a mountain stream and whispered, 'I will never be enough.' But then a rabbit ran by, and the fox caught it, not because he was an eagle, but because he was a fox." Nilan listened, uncertain. "But people still admire the eagle. And does the eagle ever catch the rabbit?" "No." "Then perhaps being admired is not the same as being complete." The old man stood slowly and pointed his stick at the water. "You are not here to fly someone else's path. You're here to walk your own. The river doesn't compete with the tree. The sun doesn't argue with the moon. Each shines in their time." That night, Nilan walked home with his heart just a little lighter. He didn't suddenly feel transformed, but he felt curious. What would it mean to live without comparison? What would it look like to be content in his own thread, his own rhythm? He decided to try. Each morning, he reminded himself of the old man's words. When someone praised Karim, he didn't shrink, he observed. When Mira commanded a room, he didn't envy, he appreciated. And slowly, Nilan began to notice what he had never seen before, his own progress. He started to experiment with new patterns, not bold like Karim's, but intricate like a soft story told in fabric. He began greeting customers, not loudly, but with sincerity. A woman from another village once told him, "Your cloth feels like calm. I don't know how to explain it." And Nilan smiled. Months passed, and with them, the shadows of comparison began to fade. Not completely, they still visited sometimes, but they no longer ruled him. He discovered that when he focused on his own growth, he grew faster than when he was busy chasing someone else's speed. One day, during the spring festival, the village held a market for craftsmen. For the first time, Neelan presented his work not in a corner, but at a booth beside the others. People stopped. They touched the fabric. They asked questions. A merchant from the city offered to buy a full roll. That night, Neelan walked to the river again. He skipped a stone 4 skips this time and chuckled. "Not bad," a familiar voice said. The old man stood nearby. "I didn't count," Neelan replied. "I did," the old man grinned. They sat in silence again for a while. Then Neelan asked, "Do you ever compare yourself?" The old man laughed. "Every time I try to run up that hill. But then I remember I was never built to race. I'm here to walk and notice the flowers others miss." Neelan smiled. As the moon rose, casting silver across the water, Neelan finally understood. He wasn't a lesser version of anyone. He was the only version of himself, and that was more than enough. From then on, when he met someone greater in speed, he admired their stride. When he saw someone richer, he blessed their abundance. But he never again used their lives to measure his worth. His happiness no longer depended on others' shadows, but on his own light. He taught young apprentices not just how to weave, but how to be patient with their journey. "Your thread is yours," he would say. "Don't try to stitch someone else's story." Years passed, and Neelan became known not just for his craft, but for his wisdom. People would travel from distant places not to learn how to weave, but how to believe in themselves. And when they asked him how he became so confident, he would reply, "Confidence is not loud. It is silent like a river. It comes when you stop looking at other waters and learn to flow as you are." One day, a young girl came to him, tears in her eyes. "I'll never be like my sister," she whispered. He knelt beside her and placed a small mirror in her hand. "You were never meant to be." She looked at her reflection, puzzled. He smiled. "You were meant to be like this girl right here, and the world has been waiting for her all along." She wiped her tears, and he knew another journey had begun, and the river kept flowing.